Come on, 49er faithful, let's get it.
Because it's 49er mind.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49er mind. It's 49er mind.
We gotta get that brick by brick real quick.
49er mind.
Yeah, yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49er mind.
We from the Bay.
49er mind.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49er mind.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49er mind.
Oh yeah, freak out, yeah, I'm looking right into the video scope, and this is Macho Man, #1 Macho Man impersonator, past, present, future, yeah, and I'm here to tell you, you are watching 49er Minded with Bashar, yeah, the cream of the crop, dig it?
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of 49er Minded, another playoff edition of 49er Minded. Hey, we're actually in the playoffs. I'm really excited about this guest I'm going to bring on pretty soon, but first let me say what's up to some peeps in the chat before we get things rolling. Let's do this. So, well, we got a lot of people in here. A lot more than normal, that's for sure. What's up, Fazil? Says, let's go, Bashar and Rob Schuh. Love both of you guys. Keep the show up. Great work. Let's go, Niners. Tay writes to smash the like button. Thank you very much. I mean the dream. What's up, man? Check his channel out. Subscribe to his channel. Says, what's up, Bashar and Rob? We got Moses in the building. We got Papi Pablo. Who else? We got Javier. And Bay Area Baller 18. Check him out. He's another YouTuber. Big time 49er fan. Loves his Niners. And Don Suave, good friend of mine. He says, BZ with that restaurant quality pizza. Hey, if you don't know me by now, I love to make that pizza. Check out my Instagram page. I got my pictures on there from time to time. But without further ado, I'm really excited about this guest. He's a wonderful guest. He comes on the Grant Cohn Show a lot. He has a channel of his own. If you haven't subscribed to him yet or don't know who he is, go to the video description right now and click on the links and you'll see everything about him. All of the links to his social media, his Twitter, his YouTube channel. And let me bring him on right now. What up, Rob?
What's up, Bashar? How you doing, man?
Fantastic. Pumped up, man. Pumped up. You know, hey, as nerve-wracking as that freaking Dallas Cowboy game was, to say that you beat the Cowboys in the playoffs is going to put a smile on your face, doesn't it?
There's nothing sweeter, right? For anyone that lived through that era of 49er football to have come up against the Cowboys in the wild card round and send them packing and advance to play the Packers in the divisional round. I mean, I'm riding high right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think I'm a bit older than you, by the way. But maybe not, because I watched those Cowboys Niner games going on during the Steve Young era when I was in high school. So I don't know where you were at.
I think we may be right in that same range. People tend to think that I'm a little bit younger. It's that boyish grin that I have and that exuberant energy. But yes, I went to, it would have been like my sophomore year in high school where we won in '94 against the Cowboys. I was there for that January playoff game, and me and my dad were there watching it. Man, just amazing football, just an amazing time in 49er history, and to relive all of that now, just so special.
Yeah, when we won the Super Bowl that year, I was 18, so I got 2 years on you, man. But
nice,
hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. We're still from the same era.
Yeah, same era.
And what's his name? Moses Martinez said something funny. I liked it. He said, "What's up, everyone? Still enjoy the Cowboy misery." That's right. That's what we're doing this week, right? That's exactly what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And then let's see. Fazil says something else. He says, "Let's go, Rob, Schuh, and Bashar. Let's get into Lambeau Field. Run the football, play solid defense, control the clock, and keep number 12 off the field." Hey, I'm all for that recipe.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I've always I don't know. Whenever I mentioned you, talked about you, I've always said you have like one of the like best voices out of all the 49er YouTubers, if not the best, So
yes, the best I heard was that I have both a voice and a face for radio, because I think that's the most accurate, right? That yes, I was made for that radio presence. I'm telling you.
And you also have the best camera too, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
And you told me what camera you have, and I was like, okay, now I know why it's the best. Has a hefty price tag. So Barry Baller 18, great YouTuber, 49er fan. Had him on my channel before. Been on his channel, and it's tons of fun collaborating with that guy.
Love Bay Area Ballers energy.
Yeah, I told him, man. He's got it's as if he drank like 10 Red Bulls before each live stream,
Yes.
And he says Rob is a voice from the heavens. Whenever I think of great voices, who do I think of? I'm a big Warriors fan, so I remember Bob Fitzgerald, whenever he used to talk about Al Attles, he'd be like, the voice of God. For me, I can mimic voices and do funny voices, and if I'm pretending to do a voiceover or whatever, I can like kind of change my voice, but it's not that natural, like awesome, radio voice that some people have. You'd be awesome for like voiceovers, man. I'm sure you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I certainly do.
Okay, we got Dan Castillo says, let's go Niners. We got Waruna Pereira, all 49ers SI writer. Awesome, dude. Been on his new channel. He's got a new channel called No BS Sports. I forgot. I think it's called No Border Sports.
Nice.
With him and Ryan. I was actually the first guest on their channel, so I'm pretty honored. I had a lot of fun on there.
That's fantastic.
What's up, Ryan? That's Ryan right there from No Border Sports. Subscribe to their channel. They got a brand spanking new channel. I had retweeted it on my Twitter, and you can check out their Twitter page as well, No Border Sports. Corey Davis, where's he at? Where's Corey Davis at? I just saw him. Corey Davis, big supporter of the channel. C. McCarver Jr., do not call him Tupac. That's C. McCarver Jr. Let's go Niners. Everybody knows who he is on YouTube. Check him out if you haven't already. And let's get to the questions, because I like to what I basically say is it's 49er minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. So you're growing up. Did you grow up in California, or was it in the Pacific Northwest?
No, I grew up in California. My family was East Coast, and so I was actually born just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Lived there until October-ish of '86, and then moved from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, and plopped down in the Bay Area, Palo Alto, California. Devontae Adams and I went to the same high school, although Devontae went there several years after I did. But yes, grew up in the mean streets of Palo Alto. And spent my time in the Bay Area. Have only been up here in the Pacific Northwest for like the last 8 or 9 years.
Oh, okay. Just stay away from the Seahawks fans, man.
Yeah. Oh my God, I cannot. I love that city, the Emerald City. It's a beautiful place, and I could never live there because those fans are the most atrocious in my book. And I'm not throwing shade. This is personal experience. Having been at that NFC Championship game, having peanuts thrown at the back of my head, I have good reason to be upset with that fan base.
Okay, I don't blame you one bit. Yeah, so you come to California, and like you live in Palo Alto, so obviously the proximity tells you something, but doesn't mean that everybody out in the Bay Area becomes a Niner fan. Did anybody influence you? There's something happen along the way where you're like, okay, now I'm a 49er fan? Was there
no doubt? Moment? So for those that aren't followers of the Patriots or history, 86 means that I had just witnessed the Patriots get their butts handed to them by Walter Payton and the Chicago defense. And so, yes, I came, as kind of a football fan at 7 years old, but, not a huge football fan. And then we get to the Bay Area, and immediately following, my dad happens to get tickets from someone he works with at a software company. They throw him a couple of seats. He brings my brother and I to our first game at Candlestick Park. I mean, forget about it. When you come to Candlestick and you watch Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig, it was a team that any child would have fallen in love with, and I immediately became a member of the Niner Faithful. And shortly after that, my dad started getting more regular seats, and then we got season tickets, and from there on out, it was just history.
Okay, actually, you mentioned that Patriots Super Bowl against the Bears. that was the first Super Bowl I actually sat down and watched. It was me, my brother, and my sister, my mom, dad, and unfortunately, I wish I watched the previous Super Bowl because we were actually playing in the previous Super Bowl. But I was still a little kid. I was still into the cartoons, still into the wrestling. My parents, foreign parents, so they had no idea what football was or didn't bother to care for it. So I got influenced later on in my life through my brother, and I watched the back-to-back Super Bowls and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I definitely saw the Bears stomp the Patriots. I remember that very, very well.
Yes, it was hard not to see. I mean, it was a brutal beating.
Sorry. And the first Niner game you went to, who were we playing?
I couldn't tell you who that first game would have been. I have been to, it's a blessing and a curse in that regard. I have a terrible memory. Historically, my genes gave me a bad memory. My dad has a bad memory, and so I inherited that. But I also, I'm sure, damaged my short-term memory as well in my college years. And so I know many of the games I was at, many of the special moments, I can tell you, yes, I was there. I couldn't tell you what my first game was, and I could definitely never list all of the games I've been to because I think it's north of about 100, 110 at this point, how many games that I have attended.
Okay, that's fine. Let us know about your experience, though, when the Dallas Cowboys played the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. The Niners had Deion Sanders and Ricky Jackson, and we signed all those crazy free agents, and Ricky Watters was our running back. William Floyd was leading the way. Can you tell us about that experience going to that game?
I was a huge Ricky Watters fan. I loved it. And let me tell you, this set up with, getting our hearts broken years prior. So having been at those playoff matchups, either with my dad or with my brother, and had our hearts ripped from our chest by those Cowboys that went on to win in 92 and 93. And then the 94 season rolls around. My brother, 3 years older than me, had just left for college. So he goes off to the East Coast to go off to Princeton, New Jersey to enter the Ivy Leagues and begin his college career. And that left me and my dad with 2 seats to every single home game. And that meant in the 94 season, I went to every single game. I was there for Jerry Rice's record-setting catch against the Raiders. I was there for the Philadelphia game. I was there for every moment that happened that year. And it was remarkable. I just remember those uniforms were so spectacular. And Deion, at the beginning of the games, used to run around the exterior of the field. And I used to watch him do that in his, he had such good pregame drip going on. The dude, he understood what it meant to look the part. And it was just a magical ride that season. And to make it into the playoffs, to progress in the way that we did, and then to beat the Cowboys, and to have the game go in the fashion it did, where Eric Davis has that pick six and we just jump out ahead. That was our section. We were section 30, row 31, seats 8 and 9. And it was the corner end zone near the scoreboard there. And that was the exact corner that Eric Davis picked it off and ran directly towards us. I remember losing my stuff. I would use a different 4-letter word there, but I'm gonna keep it PG-13.
Appreciate it.
But I lost it. I was just ecstatic. It was getting revenge on a team that had taken our souls years prior.
Oh yeah, those 2 previous games were tough. And that first time we played them, the game was a bit closer.
Yes.
And I was just thinking, oh man, come on, we got this in the bag. I even had a dream the night before that the 49ers were blowing out the Cowboys. I still remember this dream because in the dream, I remember the announcer saying, oh, it looks like they're bringing out Bill Musgrave now in the fourth quarter. So I had this dream where they freaking brought out Bill Musgrave in the fourth quarter, and I'm happy in the dream. Hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. Steve Young had a kick-ass game, and we beat the shit out of the Cowboys. And excuse my language, but and then I wake up, I'm like, oh wait, we didn't even play the game yet. And I watched the game, and it was terrible with all that stupid crap that was going on with that rainy field, the candlestick, and that one play where like Steve Young catches this deep bomb from Steve Young. Sorry, Jay Rice catches that deep bomb from Steve Young early on in the game, and they call it back to some ticky-tacky holding penalty, and we never could recover from that game. And then the next time we played them, our linebackers were running around like chickens with their head cut off trying to get Emmitt Smith that season, and Yeah, so then when we got Deion Sanders and Prime Time, then all the showboating with Ricky Waters and William Floyd, and I was like, man, we got some swag. We got some swagger, man.
William I loved Bar None Floyd.
I loved William Floyd so much that year, man. That made the 49ers so much fun to watch, and just his blocking, and just he was so hard to bring down, and he just pumped up the team, man. It was a great season, man.
There was a vibe. There was an attitude to that team. It was ridiculous.
And Brian Young that year was just ferocious. His rookie year, just like, who is this guy, man? And him and Stubblefield next to each other were just monsters. I could go on and on and on about that season because it was like an amazing memory in my head, you know.
Yes, it was.
That was probably my favorite Super Bowl season, even though I saw the two Montana ones prior. Some other people did trickle in. I want to say what's up to them before I forget them.
Where's
I know 49ers First Takes was up in here. He says, oh, hell yes. What's up, fellas? Aaron
up,
from
Aaron?
49ers First Takes been on here a couple times. Had the pleasure of joining him. Awesome dude from over in upstate New York. And, you know, his rants always crack me up. Whenever he's mad, sorry, bro. Whenever you're mad, it cracks me up. So I find it entertaining. But people tell me the same, too. All right, so we got some other people up in here. I think Nighthawk was in here. Where's Nighthawk at? If you ever watch the Rambo show, you might know who Nighthawk is. Nighthawk says, how about them cowgirls? Rafael Aguilera says, Aguirre actually, smoking that Dallas pack still. And what up, David Manu? He says, I remember that game. R.I.P. Candlestick, Levi Stadium's a landfill in comparison. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to live up to the great days of Candlestick. It really is. As much as I like Levi's.
I mean, at the end, it was a little bit of a dump, but it was our dump. It was, it had all that history. It had all that significance. It housed all of those amazing teams that were there. And I think if you had upgraded to one of the other stadiums that you see, the newer stadiums, Minnesota, Atlanta, SoFi Stadium, that are just impressive stadiums in their own right, I think that 49er faithful would have embraced it a little bit more. But Levi's just missed the mark in many regards, and I do think it will take some really special seasons in order for us to begin to appreciate Levi's at even remotely the same level that we appreciated Candlestick. But hey, winning solves everything. You win, a Super Bowl or two in that building, all of a sudden we're going to feel a lot different about it.
Then we'll have new memories. Hopefully we have some new memories created, because we had excellent memories created, in Candlestick. If some new memories are created in Levi's, that again, it could fix everything, just like you said.
Yeah. Hey, those couple of playoff games in 2019 were one hell of a start.
Oh yeah, exactly. We need to build on that without a doubt. There was something I saw in the chat that caught my eye. Who was it? Oh, was it Terry Wright? Let's see. So Terry Wright says, "Do you think Brand?" Well, let's just jump right into it. I love Brandon Aiyuk. He's asking, "Do you think Brandon Aiyuk is underrated?"
I do. I actually just on my mailbag on my live stream that I just did at 5 p.m. on my channel, I got that question about Brandon Aiyuk and whether he deserved to get more credit than he has, and I did the breakdown of his statistics. So first, let me say, I think it's because there's just not enough spotlight to go around. Deebo Samuel deserves the spotlight that he's getting, and everybody's talking about him. And then you have to include George Kittle as someone that you talk about as a pass catcher. And so it sort of trickles down from there. And then we want to talk about our QB situation. We want to give praise to our rookie running back. Finally, you get along to Brandon Aiyuk, and now people want to talk about Jawan Jennings as well. So it's just all these things that take you away from the conversation. But when you get down to the stats, and you look at, compare the first half of the season to the second half of the season, I broke it up into quarters, and it just goes from, 91 yards in the first 4 games that he had catches, 166 yards the next 4 games, then 293 yards, then 277 yards. Like, it just ratchets up. And I think what you saw in the second half of the season is the real Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, that whole doghouse crap that Kyle Shanahan was pulling. I'm a Kyle Shanahan guy, but I mean, if you're gonna try to discipline somebody, I don't know what went on. Supposedly there was some curfew issue or whatever. I don't know the real story, but I don't know, man. I in that regard, I just think Kyle Shanahan went the wrong way about it. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk is an excellent talent, and we're trying to win games at the end of the day. You got to have your best players out there,
yep.
And we got to score points, and it makes all the sense in the world to have the guy out there and get him involved. So thank God they finally did, and we're seeing how, he almost had a huge touchdown this last game had, Jimmy connected. I don't want to start bashing or trashing Jimmy or anything like that, because so many people do on here anyways. And I did a whole post game for that. This was the comment I was looking for. Tommy Huxley, what's up, dude? Says my favorite bald guy besides myself. Well, I don't have that much hair either, so I don't know. I'm the third favorite because since you're number 2. Yeah, man. But this all this 49er 49er playoff folklore is just so fun to talk about, and that's why I always ask when I get my show started before we talk about the upcoming games. I always like to know, if I haven't had that guy on before, what their fan experiences were, what games they went to, and all that. But do you have any cool experiences meeting any 49er players?
Yes, some very cool experiences that I was extremely fortunate to have. So it just so happened through my father, who stumbled across a couple of connections in the Bay Area and met some folks and got introduced and was a huge Niners fan and capitalized on that. He got the opportunity to work alongside, in some ways, Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana. And as they were both inducted into the Hall of Fame in the same year, Ronnie Lott actually reached out to my father and extended the invitation for he and my family to come out there to the Hall of Fame and watch that induction ceremony. And my favorite memory is actually why I don't have a good memory of the next day. I was, I don't know, maybe 19. No, I guess I was 21, because that would have been it was 2000 that they got inducted, if I remember that correctly. And so I would have been 21 at that time, but I got the opportunity to drink gin and tonics with Harris Barton. And let me tell you, Harris Barton had a bit of a higher tolerance for alcohol at that point in time than my 21-year-old self. I drank so much gin and tonic that the next day it was like, to this day, I would never go near another gin and tonic because of that memory of that flavor of that drink. But it was fun to be in the bar doing that. And then the next day was the induction, to be there for that, to watch Ronnie Lott, Joe Montana get inducted. We also had, the name is escaping me, but Dave somebody from the 60s was another induction for the 49ers that year.
Dave Wilcox?
Yes, Dave Wilcox. Thank you.
Linebacker.
And then we got the opportunity to go to the post-induction ceremony party. And I got to meet Eddie DeBartolo very briefly, shake his hand. It was just something else to be a 20-something-year-old kid and to experience all of that was just wild and more than I could have asked for. It was something that I'll always cherish.
I was gonna say, your dad. You have the coolest dad, man.
He is a good dude, that's for sure. He has introduced me to a couple of different Niners. I remember another memory was coming home. My folks lived in Sonoma, and me and a couple buddies were going to the NASCAR race out there at Sears Point Raceway, right? Back when it used to be called Sears Point Raceway. Love that, because it was NASCAR making lefts and rights. And so there's obviously more wrecks, and that's, as a kid, that's what you want to see is the action. And so we arrive at my parents' house, and there's a message flashing on the machine. And I didn't live there anymore, but for whatever reason, I hit play because I thought maybe it was them talking to me about, hey, something's in the fridge for you. And it wasn't. It was, hey, this is Joe Montana. And then he chuckled after saying his own name, as if he realized how, saying his own name was like, it's Joe Montana. And it was just a message from him to my dad. And I mean, it made me the coolest kid in the room at that moment, right? All my buddies were like, hold on, wait a minute. You have a message from Joe Montana on your freaking answering machine? I couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. It made my freaking weekend.
When he said this is Joe Montana, I remember there was a Sega Genesis game called Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. And I remember when you first started the game, it said something like, this is Joe Montana, Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. And that's what it reminded me of on Sega Genesis. That's so cool, man. You got some awesome stories. Yeah, actually, I met Harris Barton, too, when I was a freshman in high school. They had a 49ers charity basketball game.
Oh, nice.
And so usually they would bring like guys like Ronnie Lott and Jerry Rice, and that was like the week after Ronnie Lott had just signed with the freaking Raiders for Plan B free agency. So, they scratched Ronnie Lott's name. I did meet Eric Wright. He was there. Guy McIntyre was there. Harris Barton was there, like I mentioned earlier. Jim Fahnhorst and who was the running back? There was some running back. I'm trying to remember. Keith Henderson. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. This is like. Oh, this was right after that whole Roger Craig fumble playoff game. Just So this is like 1991. It was kind of like a dark time for the Niners because we came off a great winning season. We were hyped up for this whole three-peat. It was just pumped up. We're gonna get a three-peat. We're gonna get a three-peat, and that freaking Roger Craig fumble happens in the same game. Obviously, Montana almost gets his back torn apart, by freaking Leonard Marshall. So that period of time before the draft, it was just like we had our heads down as Niners fans. So but I did get to meet some Niner players and got some autographs, and of course it was great to meet Eric Wright and the guys. Tons of fun. I met other players down the road, but we can always talk about that another time.
Very cool.
Yeah, so so that's awesome, man. You got plenty of cool stories as being a Niner fan. Do you remember what your first jersey was by any chance, or?
I think the first jersey is still the one that I rock now. I don't think I had one before. My brother gave me the 98 Jerry Rice jersey that I still have in mint condition. It has now been to a lot of different stadiums, a lot of different games. I have, washed it sparingly. I try not to spill any mustard on it at games. I try to wear an undershirt so that, it can just air out a little bit and not need to be washed frequently. I think Jerry Rice was my first jersey and still one of my proudest. I mean, it's still the one that I choose to wear when I go to games now, 24 years later.
Yeah, I was saying that if there's one player who I haven't met who I really, really wanted to meet is Jerry Rice. It's kind of like the guy I got to meet. I met Riley Ladd, I met Dwight Clark, met some of the other, current players back when they were current a few years back. But yeah, Jerry Rice is definitely one of them, and I wouldn't mind getting his jersey either. We got Waruna Pereira from the All 49ers SI and the No Borders Sports podcast over on YouTube. That new channel says, question to Rob, says, if there's any game that you can go back in time and watch in person, what game would you pick?
Oof, that is a tough question. There are so many choices, but it would have to be one of the Niners Super Bowls, because that's sort of the most painful part of now having been to 2 Super Bowls in person. I've been to the Niners losses. So to have been to any one of the 5 wins, I think it would have been the 94 season because of the fact that we were riding high, because I had been to every other game that year. To see them crush the Chargers would have just been the crescendo, the cherry on top. So I'm going to go with that, the 94 Super Bowl, just to put a cherry on top of being at every other game.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had season tickets for the 2012 season when we went to the Super Bowl against the Ravens. So unfortunately, we didn't win the Super Bowl that year, but it was a great season to have attended.
And that was a great. I mean, to be in New Orleans, no better place for Super Bowl. Niner faithful were all over Bourbon Street. It was a great party. It just didn't end the way in which we wanted it to.
Yeah, and then it was really close to the very end. It looked like we were going to win. And,
yes. We were right there in the corner end zone, right above where Crabtree was going for the fade 4 times in a row.
Wow. So you saw it right there up close and personal.
Yeah.
For me, if I were to go to get any game, I was thinking like the Cats game, because that game kicked off the dynasty.
Yes.
But then I was also thinking, the good old Cincinnati Bengals game when Joe Montana's in the huddle and he's like, hey, they're about to go in the game when he drives. He's like, hey, look over there. There's John Candy.
Yeah.
I'd love to have been there at that game sitting right next to John Candy. I think that would have been cool.
I love it.
I was a John Candy fan. And, I love the old school comedies from the 80s and 90s.
Some of the best comedies in the 80s. I mean, if you haven't seen Uncle Buck, forget about it.
Yeah, I don't like today's comedies and today's comedic actors so much. I mean, I used to do stand-up comedy, and I still watch stand-up comedy here and there, but I just think I don't know if it's because of the nostalgia of me growing up, but I'm sure I just prefer all the sitcoms and all the comedies and movies from back in the 80s, 90s and era, or maybe early 2000s a little bit. That's a whole other story. I was going to say to people in the chat, I do appreciate you guys just keeping the chat so lit and active as always. But if you guys do have any other questions for Rob, feel free to ask them. I'm gonna jump right into. So I always do a little food questions here. I'm a big pizza guy because I got my own pizza oven in the backyard. And I love to make pizza, and I throw my little pizza pictures on Instagram every now and then. And you said you came from the East Coast. I don't know how old you were when you came from Boston to California, but I don't know how your pizza tastes are though, because everybody has their own little preferences. So, would you rather go for a New York style pizza, a Chicago deep dish pizza, or I don't know what they have over in Boston. But.
So Boston would have been closer to the New York style, and certainly, as a kid, I loved pizza, and we got plenty when we were back east. We moved out when I was 7 or 8, so I had plenty of time to fall in love with a little bit of East Coast pie. At Palo Alto, there were a couple decent pizza spots, but nothing compares to the pizza scene. I've never lived anywhere with the level of pizza scene that Portland has going on right now. You want New York style? Check. You want deep dish, Chicago deep dish? Check. You want Detroit style? That's my current favorite, where you've got the cast iron, crispy cheese on the edges, a thick dough, and then they layer that sauce on top of everything. That to me is pretty good. That and the Schuh family has a Chicago deep dish style pizza that we did on Christmas Eve, every Christmas Eve until I was, I don't know, in my mid-20s, when you stop having Christmas Eve with the family and you start doing it with your own family. And even now, I make my own version of that pie. So that may have the warmest spot.
Chicago deep dish?
Yeah, because of the attachment to family. But
got it.
If you're asking if I'll eat any kind of pizza, you name it, I'm in. Any type of pizza, I'm in.
Yeah, it's funny because nowadays people are starting to talk a whole lot more about that Detroit style pizza, and I did have it recently when I went to visit my sister a couple months ago in San Jose, and there's a spot over there that makes it pretty good. And you got your knowledge down though, because in order to make one, they got to be in these cast iron pans that have these higher edges, and the history behind it was, I'm not sure if you know about this or not, but
no.
And well, Detroit's Motor City, right?
So
I'm not sure how true this is, but the urban legend is that the cast iron pan was a mechanic's pan to hold like the nuts and bolts, and they used one of those to make a pizza out of it, and boom, they're really popular. What's funny, I have relatives in Michigan, and I've been out there multiple times, but I've never actually had a Detroit style pizza when I was out there. Usually we check out all the Middle Eastern spots because we're Middle Eastern, and they have the best Middle Eastern restaurants you'll ever find in the United States of Michigan. So
very nice. I'll have to ask you for a recommendation on restaurants next time there's a game in Detroit.
Trust me. I know a lot of good spots there. Actually, and if I do hit up a pizza spot when I am out there next time, I hear Buddy's is really good for Detroit style pizza.
Nice.
Yeah. So so let's jump right into this whole Green Bay Packer thing, man. It's like, for myself, this whole of course I hate the Cowboys. That's our huge, probably our main rivalry. That's the birth of our dynasty. And you can because before that catch game, we played them in the NFC Championship game when we had John Brody at Kezar Stadium when we lost. So before we still had some bad blood even before the catch game, but just growing up as a Niner fan, this whole Packer rivalry was something else too. Like I freaking got so heated watching these playoff games when Brett Favre used to beat us up in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we never got the same type of real satisfaction where you then go on and win the championship afterward, right? Certainly had the catch too. I was thrilled enough to be there for that game as well, and that felt great. But the inability to reach the highest level somehow took the shine off of that, and so there's equal levels of disdain, I think, for some people when they look at the Cowboys of the 90s versus the Packers of the 90s, just for that fact that in 94, we beat the Cowboys on the way to tasting it all. But with the Packers, we just didn't quite get there, even though we did get a little bit of redemption about them. This feels like a flashback to my teenage 90s self, where we get to go through these teams this year to try and make something happen.
Yeah, and during those years, those Steve Young years, I remember like one of those years we had a ferocious pass rush. Like we had freaking Chris Dolman, Roy Barker, who we picked up from the Minnesota Vikings, had like double-digit sacks as well that year, and I think Kevin Green was on the roster with them as well. We just had these all-star studs at pass rush. I'm like, oh man, Brett Favre is going to get sacked, and we're going to kill this guy. And lo and behold, Brett Favre is just like running around, and he used to do this crazy stuff that would piss me off so much, where he'd run around the pocket and then he just like was aired out, and it looked like he wasn't even looking where he was throwing.
Yeah.
But then Antonio Freeman would catch it, and then he'd get this big touchdown, and he'd act all cocky and talk all this trash, and those games broke my heart as a Niner fan.
Yes.
And just as much as those Cowboys, because I honestly thought going to those seasons, or once we made it to the dance to playoffs, I thought, oh wow, we got a shot to get another Super Bowl ring with Steve Young, you know.
Right.
We did it in '94, and let's do it one of these seasons. And especially because we had T.O. and Rice going around that time, and it was just so heartbreaking, man. Like, just those games killed me. So we fast forward, and there's the whole thing where, oh, the 49ers should have drafted Aaron Rodgers. Why did they draft Alex Smith? There was all that buzz, and I remember on draft day, Dennis O'Donnell from KPIX, Channel 5 over in the Bay Area, walks up to Aaron Donald. I had this video on my Facebook. That's why I remember who it was. And he's like, oh, so what do you think about the 49ers? Not something like, are you disappointed that the 49ers didn't draft you? And he's like, oh, not as disappointed as they will be for not drafting me, or something. And from that point on, I just wanted to choke out Aaron Rodgers. I couldn't stand the guy.
Yep. I tell you what, if you're a believer in karma, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have much good karma headed his way. He just doesn't.
And this is the same guy who disowned his parents, and he's not the nicest guy. But some people said, hey, well, Runa always says that. I mentioned Runa earlier. He always says that to be an arrogant prick is something that you have to be in terms of being an NFL quarterback. And I do agree somewhat, because to have that type of confidence, where you're just oozing confidence all over the place, is something starting NFL quarterback needs. And to his credit, Aaron Rodgers is an amazing quarterback. And if
amazing,
I was in the GM, if I was in Scott McCloughn's, was it Scott McCloughan the GM that time? I'm not sure. Might have been.
I think that might have been before Scott McCloughan's era.
Yeah, I think McCloughan might have been right under the GM at the time. Whoever it was that made the pick during Nolan's first year. But if I was the guy making the pick, sure, I probably would have picked Aaron Rodgers over Alex Smith. And the whole thing was, and here's another irony behind it. When they didn't pick him was because Mike McCarthy, who was 49ers offensive coordinator at the time, was whispering to Mike Nolan that, oh, when this guy came, because Aaron Rodgers came into Santa Clara to interview them, and they said that he was too cocky. He walked into the building with sunglasses, and he had this cocky attitude, and McCarthy does nothing with us that year. Our offense was so dismal, and then he leaves us to go to the freaking Green Bay Packers and coach Aaron Rodgers a few years later to a Super Bowl.
It's crazy. And I think, to me, you do need that edge if you're going to be an elite NFL quarterback. And I do think that you can cross over into an unhealthy ego. And I believe that if Aaron Rodgers were a better leader of men, he'd have more than one ring. I think that, to me, that's a fact. To me, his body language, the way in which he acts when things don't go his way, the way in which he casts blame on others in the coaching staff, on the offense, to me, if he could just deflect some of that to himself, he'd be a better quarterback, a better leader, and he'd have a better chance at having multiple rings. But he just is that ultimate arm talent, and so he deserves the one he got, and he deserves the accolades that he gets. He is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league when it comes to his arm talent. But when it comes to being the complete player, being the good human being, he's a little lacking there.
Yeah, he needs some help in that department, I think. Just saying.
Right.
So let's fast forward. I have season tickets in 2012 season. God rest his soul, I was at the game with my brother. We had season tickets that year, and we watched the 49ers play the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs at Candlestick. Colin Kaepernick puts on a show. Freaking, runs around all over the place, man. And then, throws some nice touchdowns, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Aaron Rodgers was a QB, and we sent them home packing.
Yes, we did. That was fantastic. I was there for that one as well. That was it was interesting. My father had a young mentee from the Boys and Girls Club of Sonoma that he was supporting, and took that young gentleman to his very first football game. And that was the game he got to go to, was a freaking playoff game against the Packers where Colin Kaepernick rushes for, 181 on that one. Unbelievable. I can't imagine any game will ever live up to that for him after that. But what an epic experience to have.
Without a doubt. And then, was it the following year? we beat them again in the playoffs, right? But this time it was in Green Bay.
In Green Bay,
and then,
cold weather.
And Kaepernick didn't want to wear the long sleeves either. People were saying he was showing off and
show off the tattoos.
Yeah, we won that game. Then of course we go to the Jimmy G era, 2019. We beat Aaron Rodgers again. So it's been great. From this point on, hey, better than the Brett Favre era. We beaten Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay in the playoffs, but yeah, like you said, it hasn't been en route to a Super Bowl win. So we gotta, if we do beat him this time, we gotta win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean, this season has a little bit of weird magic to it. It has been a roller coaster ride for the ages. I mean, it has been so up, so down, and so many times in between. So much frustration, so much joy. It feels like this could be the kind of season where something special happens. I'm not saying that it's going to. I'm just saying that it might.
Yeah, I mean, I think defense wins playoff games, right? So now we may not have the best quarterback, and there's all types of, controversy with the quarterback situation with the Niners and, Jimmy G. I've said all kinds of stuff this season, and I'm trying to keep it as positive as possible because I know we do need to support whoever's under center, and I get that part.
Yes, we do.
As much as he drove me freaking crazy in the fourth quarter in the last game, I talked a whole lot about that. I threw something in the chat, just said, hey, if you guys have any questions for Rob, he's here because we're going to be talking about this upcoming game, and you guys have got any questions regarding the Green Bay Packer game, throw them. And from what I understand, somebody I know might be going to the game, right? Or are you going to the game?
I am attempting to go to every single stadium in the NFL. That's what this little map back here actually has, is pins in it to the stadiums I have attended so far. The vast majority of those games obviously coming in California, most of them at Candlestick Park, a fair number at Levi's and the rest of the stadiums on the West Coast. But I'm now up to somewhere around 17 or 18 stadiums. Some of them are no longer relevant, and now I need to go to the new stadium. But I've yet to go to Lambeau Field, and this weekend will be the first time. I wanted it to be a game like this where it's January football, it's freaking cold as all get out, and you're uncomfortable because what other way do you want to enjoy a game at Lambeau Field? So yes, I will be there just covered in layers and layers and layers of clothing trying to stay warm.
I think it was a YouTube video that I watched or some short little documentary on TV about Lambeau Field, but I had no idea there was so much preparation to go into that stadium of theirs during the wintertime, this time of year. Basically, I had no idea they had a heating system underneath the field.
Oh yeah, under the field.
Mm-hmm. They have that so the field doesn't freeze over.
Right.
And then in the concession stands, they have a whole heating system, wherever they keep the beer, because otherwise the beer would just freeze crazy. So,
that's when it's cold, where you got to warm up the beer so that it's not too cold.
Yeah, and it was so, I forgot how much money they said was involved, but so much money is pumped into that stadium to keep it going. Maybe that's why the Green Bay Packer fans aren't too thrilled with the way the team's being ran. They say, oh, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, but they never put a great team around him. I don't know. It's just it seems like they don't. They always have to complain about Aaron Rodgers not having this this great team's organization's not ran properly.
Right.
Maybe they're too worried about keeping their stadium warm.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at those temperatures, maybe they got the right priority though. You got to have your beer ready to go in single digits.
And from what I understand, isn't it bleachers in that stadium? They don't have actual seats, assigned seats.
That's my understanding of it. Although, as I look at seats, as I look at tickets, I mean, they're all listed as seats. But from the way I see it on TV, it looks like it's all the original bleachers, new but original.
Okay, so really quick, Roberto, who's young creeper, says, "What's up, Bashar? How you doing?" We got Don Suave says, he calls me BZ. He says, Robert BZ, would you start Trey over Jimmy against the Packers? Go ahead, you ask first.
I wouldn't. I'm with Kyle Shanahan on this one, that he believes Jimmy Garoppolo gives him the best chance to win. I got to take him at his belief there because he's the one that sees every single practice snap. He's the one that knows for certain what each player knows about the playbook, how comfortable they are with the playbook. And Kyle Shanahan, to me, is the type of head coach that wants to give the answers to the test to his quarterback and just needs his quarterback to be able to deliver those answers, to fill in the Scantron, so to speak. And I think that his trust is in Jimmy Garoppolo right now. He understands what Jimmy brings to the table, and that Trey might be a little bit of an unknown for him. So if we needed to go with Trey, I take great solace in the fact that he's an athletically gifted individual, saw incredible growth from him from the first start to the second. But I operate with the same mindset as Kyle Shanahan, that I want Kyle Shanahan to be able to dial up whatever play he believes attacks the weakness of the defense. And he seems to believe that Jimmy Garoppolo, even with the injured thumb, gives him that best chance.
Speaking of injuries, there was some report that I saw linking around Twitter today, something about a sprained shoulder that Kaepernick, that Jimmy Garoppolo suffered during the game. I was like, wait, how in the hell did he play? I was like, so I don't know if this is true or not. Then Grant Cohn and a few other guys were putting out that, Jimmy G might be doubtful for this upcoming game, and it's crazy. So in that case, I don't know what Jimmy G's true health is now. If obviously, if I was a coach, if I see that Jimmy G has ailments and injuries, this is the playoff game. We're gonna have to win the game. For me, I go with Trey Lance because I want a fully healthy quarterback out there. But assuming Jimmy G's ready to go, he's been with the team this whole time. I get it that they're trying to pump him up for the trade value. I get all that part. I pretty much just see this as Jimmy G's last dance anyways. So, in the whole locker room thing, the locker room's, riding with him. And I just see that, they're going to go with Jimmy G anyways. And that's pretty much how I see them doing it. But my only question is I just don't know if he's fully healthy or not. And if it would be kind of weird to see a quarterback out there with a torn ligament in his thumb and a sprained shoulder, coming out to play on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of pain tolerance for him. If it's not impacting his ability to throw and he's okay with the discomfort, then I think you got to roll with him.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see how that happens and how that plays out. And, the cold weather types of games, now these games do kind of favor the run game. So we saw Elijah Mitchell out there, and, Deebo had over 70 yards and an excellent touchdown. For me, with the run game is I just want to see a little bit more of I don't know. I'm a fan of this guy. A lot of people aren't, but I like Jeffrey Wilson Jr.
Yes.
He's a tough runner up in the middle, and every now and then he can get shows little sneaky speed from time to time to get a nice little outside run. And I kind of want to see it where Elijah Mitchell isn't used so much, so they kind of save him for the third or fourth quarter, so he could have that cardio and bust that long run. That's because I want to see Elijah Mitchell get that big, long touchdown run. And we almost saw it this last game. Somebody caught his shoestring. Yeah.
So close. A shoestring tackle took that away.
It happened in the Rams game too, by the way. Is there? So we all know about Davante Adams, obviously.
Yeah.
And going into these playoffs, my biggest worry, assuming we were going to clinch the playoffs, I was thinking, okay, how? So we ended up clinching the playoffs, but I was thinking the whole time, what's the point of going to the playoffs with Josh Norman at cornerback and all these defensive pass interferences we've been giving up? But lo and behold, it's like we're peaking at the right time. Mosley comes back. He's looking really nice. And the guy who I've been supporting all this time but looked really bad from the get-go was Ambry Thomas. And I was basically saying, they thrusted him into week 10 or week 11 of the season. He's going to look bad because this is weeks 1 and 2 for him, and he's a rookie. And on top of that, he didn't even play any football last year. But, right before our eyes, boom, Ambry Thomas is making plays and saying, hey, look, I belong out here. They drafted me for a reason. I love every minute of that. So now I feel a whole lot better in the playoffs going up against a guy like Davante Adams. I'm assuming Mosley is going to be guarding Adams. But who else should we worry about in the passing game other than Davante?
To me, I think the recipe for success for the 49ers has to be attacking the monster at the head. When you have Davante Adams, you then have to make a conscious decision. Do we allocate additional resources to attempt to hold Davante in check? Because there's no one man on the 49ers that's absolutely going to be able to do that. You don't have a Ramsey like the Rams do. That's not how the 49ers chose to build their defensive strength, their roster. The way in which they chose to build their defense was investing in that defensive line over and over and over again. And I believe that has to be the strategy in how you attempt to curtail the Packers offense. You have to rely on your pass rush to get home. And the hope is that you're able to get home with 4 D linemen and not have to send any extra bodies, because you know that Aaron Rodgers will make you pay if you're blitzing him and it's obvious and he knows where his outlet pass is. He's got no fear in making that. So I think that the key for the 49ers in limiting Devontae Adams, in limiting MVS, in limiting Randall Cobb, who's going to be back, it looks like, this week, is to hit Aaron Rodgers. Make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable, not just by sacking him, but quarterback hits, dirtying that jersey and getting him frustrated to the point where you see those sideways glances from him over at the Packers sideline.
And that's what we did to him in 2019 with that ferocious pass rush that we had.
Yes.
Bosa, we had Buckner, we had freaking D Ford. And speaking of pass rush, against the Cowboys, it looks like we had a pretty good pass rush with Bosa coming along. And you see Bosa on the ground. And initially I thought he messed up his knee. I thought it was another ACL tear because he was kind of grabbing at one of his legs for a quick second. Lo and behold, it was a concussion. But the whole time he got hurt, I was just like freaking out. Like, oh great, this is the last thing we need. I don't want to see Bosa with another, 12 a year long injury or something like that. And I'm like, how are we going to get to Dak Prescott? And lo and behold, everybody just freaking stepped up. Jordan Willis, Charles Omenihu had 1.5 sacks. Arden Key, who from the second half of the season till now has really, really stepped up and said, hey, look at me, man. I'm ready to play. Eric Armstead, who a lot of people complained about because his name wasn't DeForest Buckner, was just like, hey, man, I'm going to lead the charge here. And he's been stopping the run all year long, and now he's starting to make his presence felt with his pass rush in terms of the pressures that he's getting. And I'm helping finish up on some quarterback sacks. DJ Jones, I call him Mark Henry with wheels, basically. The WWE Mark. Oh, you got the DJ Jones barbecue sauce. I saw you talk about that before.
I do.
Feel free to go on a little mention that a little bit after my D-line talk. But I was just so proud of these guys, man, because here comes our stud guy, Bosa. He's not even on the field, but yet we still make our presence felt in the pass rush, and our team builds from the inside out. And I'm a trenches guy. I played defensive line my freshman year of high school. Then they moved me over to offensive line, and I love and respect everything those linemen do, whether on both sides of the ball. So, I was so stoked about the performance they had, and hopefully we can continue that into Green Bay Lambeau Field. And I hear Bosa might be coming back. They didn't announce it officially, but it sounds like he's going to be coming back, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And hey, that's going to be a great recipe to try to beat Aaron Rodgers. And David McNew had a question for you. He says, Rob, do you think the slackers go with the click slant offense again to detour our pass rush, or will DeMeco Ryans be ready for it? What do you think?
You have to hope that DeMeco is going to be a little more prepared than he was in week 3. I mean, he is certainly dialing up better performances from the defense. He has come on gangbusters in the second half of this season. I mean, the progression for him as a defensive coordinator, I think, has been remarkable. And it's evidenced by people interviewing him to be a head coach now, right? After week 3, after that Packers loss, where he had no answers for Nick Bosa getting chipped, he didn't disguise coverages at all, and Rodgers was able to pick us apart in the closing minutes of that game. There was a lot of vitriol being spit at DeMeco at that point. People were wondering if he had been tapped too early. Flash forward to now, you're looking at an elite defense that he's put together. And so I do think that the 49ers will be better prepared. I think they are healthier in the middle of the field, which is critical for attacking those slants. You've got to hope that Fred Warner is able to go. And again, the pass rush is much more now than it was then. Back then, it was Bosa and basically nothing. Now, Bosa's out, and you still have a dominant pass rush. So it is those role players and Chris Kosarick just coaching up everyone that comes into his position group. It's unbelievable.
It's great that you mentioned Chris Kosarick. That guy's just a ball of fire. When I watch that guy in training camp, he is just so pumped up all the time. And we came from a great D-line coach in Tom Sula.
Yes.
Terrible head coach, but excellent D-line coach. Let's not forget about that. So, we replaced him with somebody who's possibly even better, man. When I watch him, it just makes me excited. Like, man, I want to get back on the practice field and play some football now. and we mentioned DJ Jones earlier. Go ahead and plug that barbecue sauce for us.
Yeah, this is his dad right here, Big Dave's Barbecue Sauce. I'm not sponsored by it at all, but I support it because Big Dave gives a portion of those proceeds to charity. That is DJ Jones's dad. I've been told that it may be sold out on the site. I'm sure it was me, promoting the barbecue sauce. No, but I just love DJ Jones. I love the heart that he has. I love the way in which he plays. And the story of he and his father and some of the things that his family went through growing up was just a good one. And it struck home with me. So I have always wanted to support Big Dave and DJ Jones as well.
Oh, yeah. I love what DJ Jones is doing now. I've always liked him. He's always had a good motor, but I was always wondering, why don't they have him on the field as much as they should, But now he's starting to get PT in important times, and he's starting to show you can get to the quarterback.
Yes.
And surprise, surprise, we got a good buddy of mine who's been on the show before, David Edmondson from Real Talk Niner Talk. Great dude, really nice guy. We were talking about Detroit style pizza before. This guy was actually just in Detroit not too long ago, and
all right.
I know he's a fan of the Detroit style pizza, by the way. And he said Armstead is finally standing out. So back to our D-line conversation. Raphael says that DJ Jones sauce is fire. Dranillo 1K says Mark Henry with wheels. That's what I was saying earlier about DJ Jones.
Yes.
Remember when they tried to run that fake field goal in that Rams game? And
he
DJ
was
Jones
like a middle linebacker out there in space.
He's like Patrick Willis, right?
Yes.
I love that. And he did the same thing against the Seahawks too. Forgot who the running back was, but just on the left sideline, boom. Next thing you know, you see DJ Jones running and punches the ball loose and boom, fumble.
Quick feet for a big man.
Oh, yeah. And he's strong as hell too, that guy.
Yes, he is.
If you guys, we're gonna wrap this up in about 5 minutes or so. So if you have any this is last call. So if you got any cool questions that you can throw out, let me know. Pop them up in the chat. And I thought I saw Niner Sickness up here. Here he is. Niner Sickness Podcast. What up, Beto? Says good evening, faithful from Niner Sickness Podcast. Great dude. He also has really good cameras. I'm always talking about people and their camera quality. So. We all have Sony cameras though. If you want to use a DSLR camera and do a live stream, get a Sony. They don't have
Sony all the way.
I wish they were, but you can't argue with their quality. So there's two running backs in the backfield with the Green Bay Packers. We got AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I'm more familiar with Aaron Jones, but can you tell me about their running styles and how they contrast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with either one personally. Okay. I mean, having watched them cursory as far as games that have been on television, I see that as, a little bit of Aaron Jones being, the faster, more dynamic of the two, certainly the one that they're giving the majority of carries to. AJ Dillon, a bit more girth to him, going to be used around the goal line, most definitely. A little bit of the reverse from what we had going up against Dallas, where Zeke is the primary back and he's a half a step slower. And then you have a little more of a lightning complement to him with Tony Pollard. I would guess that the Packers are going to focus primarily on getting Aaron Jones going, right? In the game against Dallas, I thought it was actually a mistake not to get Pollard more touches. I mean, he could have been the X factor for them. He almost had the big return on the kickoff on the run back that was called back for a Dallas penalty, and there were plenty of those to go around on Sunday. But I would see the focus, the vast majority of the carries going to Aaron Jones. I think that you saw a much more even split throughout the season in an effort to keep Aaron Jones healthy for this playoff push. You hear Matthew Berry, the fantasy guru, talking about all the time, free Aaron Jones. I think that's what they'll be looking to do on Saturday, is get him the vast majority of the touches.
Okay, because I'm definitely more familiar with him than the other guy, without a doubt. And would you say this Green Bay offensive line? I know they got David Bakhtiari. Eric Bakhtiari used to play for us. If you guys remember, he was a pass rusher who was on our team at one point, but he's nowhere near the talent as his brother is. But is this O-line comparable to the Dallas O-line that we just faced?
I would say if you have a healthy Bakhtiari back, yes, I think that's a reasonable proximity. without that, I would say that the 49ers may have a little bit more success getting to Aaron Rodgers. That, again, is the way in which I see this defense slowing down the pass most successfully, is being able to disrupt Aaron Rodgers, get to him, knock him around, even if you're unable to sack him, even if he's able to get the ball out before you drag him to the ground, just continually hitting the man. You've seen it impact him in games and years prior. I think that's the recipe for success for the Niners. And this offensive line, much like Bosa describing Dallas, there are some beatable matchups there for San Francisco.
And hopefully the referees are a bit more liberal when it comes to throwing the flags, because I saw our guys getting killed. Even though we did apply pressures but especially those key moments in the fourth quarter, I saw like Omenihu and a few other dudes getting held, and like there were no flags. So
yeah, it's wild. That certainly has been the case for Nick Bosa, but I agree that you saw it with other key defenders getting held and not getting called. It seems to be a trend in the league that they just don't want that much laundry on the field, and so they're letting some things slide.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when it happens to us so damn much, that's for sure.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to wrap things up pretty soon. Just want to say a few other things. David McNew brings up a great point. Says our run defense has stepped up. We do have Greenlaw back, which is excellent. I like the way he's looking. El-Shire looks excellent. Warner looking good. Warner might be clear to play from what I hear as well. And with DJ Jones clogging up the middle, and all those D linemen are just looking really, really nice.
Yeah, the number one rushing defense since the bye in week 6.
Yeah, and offensively, of course, everybody's saying we should pound the rock, because that's what we did when we had Mostert. We don't have Mostert anymore. Now we kind of got the combination of Elijah Mitchell, the awesome rookie, with Deebo Samuel, who just can give you that explosive run from time to time on the outside with that nice burst. I do want to see a bit more of Kittle, though. I don't know if you watched any of the All-22. I didn't, but I was wondering, why isn't Kittle involved in the passing game? I know he blocks for us great in the run game, but I don't know why we weren't throwing the ball. Would you be able to answer that? Was he even getting open?
I think that's just it, is that he's been required to chip players, to be involved in more of a max protection scheme. And he is just that good of a blocking tight end that you're willing to give up what he offers as a pass catcher in order to keep Jimmy upright. I think that's more of a case playing Dallas, depending on the health of Zadarius Smith as he comes back. He's looking to play this week, hasn't played since October. You could see another scenario if he's successful in getting after the passer and getting after Jimmy. You may have to keep George Kittle in. What I'd be looking for is make those instances where he does run routes, make them count, right? We missed a couple of opportunities against Dallas. One of them, thankfully, was an incomplete pass, because otherwise it would have been a fumble. But I do think that you've got to hit on those. He's only going to get, a handful of targets, because you would guess that he'd probably be leaned on for pass protection again if Zadarius Smith is playing. And so you got to make those count. You got to make him, get the ball in the middle of the field, give him some space, let him eat up that yak.
I was gonna say when it looked like Kittle had fumbled, my whole world crashed down. It crashed down just as much as when I thought Bosa was out for the next year and Warner.
Yes.
With that said, do we have any score predictions?
I have yet to do that, and it would just be me winging it if I did.
Okay.
So tomorrow is the official day where I will dig in harder on the Packers. I always do my Monday breakdown, celebrating the win or consoling on the loss. Tuesday is my mailbag episode, answering questions from the fans. And then Wednesday is the day I will dig into the upcoming opponent most heavily. So tomorrow will be Packer prep. And then I've got the Between Two Beards podcast that I do on my channel at 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Who's beard number 2?
Beard number 2 is Randon McMahon.
Randon. Yeah, he was telling me he was doing something with you, but I wasn't sure if he had a beard. Yeah, great guy. I've talked to him on the Twitter Spaces. I didn't know if he had a beard or not, though.
Yes,
so he does. He does have one. Okay, got it. So let's do this. So I'm gonna do my prediction. You save yours for your show. That's fine. I say 29 to let's say 24. I see it being close.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good prediction. That mine will be in that range, because what I can say, even though I've not made the actual prediction, is I believe, like you, it will be close, and I believe it will take scoring in the mid to high 20s in order to win this one. So that's the way I see it breaking out as well. Maybe a little bit different, but very close in proximity to the way you're saying it will shake out.
And before I wrap things up, I just want to say this is the biggest Jimmy G backer. I go back and forth with this guy all the time because I'm a big Trey Lance guy. But at the end of the day, I just want to win football games. I'm a Niner fan. First things first. He says, Jimmy, this is Prius game. He says, Jimmy will keep holding up the team. Have your Jimmy G jersey ready. And then he says, protect Jimmy G, period. All right. So really quick before we go, I just want to say thank you to all the chatters. You guys are awesome. You guys make the show what it is. You know, the guests, my excellent guests, always make it what it is. It's just for great conversation. I never do this show by myself because I just figure it'd be boring if I was just sitting up here talking by myself. For me, going back and forth with another Niner fan is just the funnest thing. The funnest conversation I can ever have is with a Niner fan. So do me a favor. I got your video info, all your social media info in the description box of this video, and feel free to plug away about your channel and talk about what you got going on.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I started out going on a guest appearance on Grant Cohn's channel, and it just awakened something in me as far as talking Niners, just what you're talking about here, that there's no better conversation than talking football with another Niner fan. And when I started my own channel, that's exactly what I was looking to do, have a dialogue with other Niner faithful. And that's what this channel is all about. So it is me. I bring on guests. I have interviews. There are mailbag shows. I'm doing regular content. Head over there. The channel is just Rob Schuh, spelled in the same way you see right down here. You can follow me on Twitter. It is @TheLeftShoe. Nothing to do with politics. It just is a play on words that I picked back when I was in college at the age of 19 and have stuck with it. I was covering NCAA basketball back then, but my channel is all Niners content, and it is fun, it is good-natured, and it is glass half full. I tend to be a positive guy, and I tend to try and spin things to a positive angle because I like that positivity more than negativity.
And if the shoe fits, wear it. And I have a great comment here before I wrap this up. Low the Truth says, hats off to Bashar and Rob for the excellent content. Two-headed monster. I very, very much appreciate that comment. Niner Sickness says, don't go. we can't be on here forever. Another guy says, don't go, Young Creeper. Again, you guys are awesome in the chat. Definitely check this guy out, Rob Schuh. Excellent guy. If you want to be a sneakerhead, follow him and subscribe to him on his YouTube channel. I can't say enough of it. You're just an awesome dude who loves the Niners and is extremely passionate. Put out great work, great content. Thanks again to everybody in the chat. Hopefully we beat Green Bay. I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to cuss like I did last time about Aaron Rodgers because I just want a W this time. I want to be as positive as I can be. But thank you, everybody. Again, thanks for watching 49er Minded, where we keep getting to the minds of the 49er fans and keep repping those Niners and stay 49er Minded. Peace.
Come on, 49er faithful, let's get it.
Because it's 49er mind.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49er mind. It's 49er mind.
We gotta get that brick by brick done quick.
49er mind.
Yeah. Yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49er mind.
We from the Bay.
49er mind.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49er mind.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49er mind.